coming out on this previously cold and rainy day that turned into a dry and sun was peeking out day. Bob had to work, he was on call, and Marilyn was didn't have a boat, so she said she couldn't navigate over here. She was a little afraid of the washes and the streets and everything, trying to, I don't know if you've ever, I'm sure you all have, driving and then going through that big splash and someone else, and your whole windshield's covered with, and you panic for a second because you don't know if you're going to run into something, so the poor thing, so she's not going to be good. Do we have a packet? An extra packet? I don't think you, this is This is a little different format that Gangaya had, Gangaya does everything differently. So this is a different format where the way it's structured is that all the work is not on me, but it's also on you, which I like. That you read the lesson. Last week we were lesson 1, and then you actually answer the questions, and then we discuss it, because otherwise if we read it all together it takes up more than the class time, and we don't get as much out of it. So, but we have to get in the habit of actually reading it beforehand and answering the questions, because if we don't do that, then we're not participating properly and we won't get the desired benefits. So also we had one verse to go over and at least get the English translation down, if not the Sanskrit. So is anyone ready for that? Yes.
Yat karasi, yat asnasi, yat juhosi dadasi, yat tapas yasti konteya, tat krusva mararpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do this, O son of Kunti, as an offering unto me.
I'll give it two sentence meaning, what that means, what that verse means.
It means that whatever you do do for Krishna. That includes eating, giving away gifts, offering austerities. So all our activities are dedicated towards pleasing Krishna.
Yes. That's good. Do you know that person?
Yeah. Can we say, let Karoshi Yarasnasi, let Jehosi Dadasi, let the Pashashi Kampiya, let Kurusha Marapana. In English.
Yeah?
Whatever,
Or
whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, give away, whatever austerities you perform, so as an offering on me. The translation you read is a little different. It's something like new or something.
Either this is, it's only one of two. It's either from the old Gita or the new Gita.
That's from the old Gita.
This is the old Gita, which is the verse I'm more attached to, because
This one should be done as an offering on me. I never heard that version, but
okay.
That's the one you remember?
Yeah, well, I got this off the internet, and I believe I went to the old Gita to get it, because...
Oh, okay. So I wondered that.
But the idea is the same.
There's a new and an old?
No. There's a edited one that the English is edited a little bit, so changes a little bit the verse. Not all the verses, but some of them. But this may come up, so we might as well say it. There's a controversy in the movement of some people liking Prabhupada's original words, what they say is original, and others don't care and feel that if there's some grammar mistake or if it's brought back to the true meaning, it's better. So that controversy will never ever be solved, because there's until the people that remember the old Gita die, and then like me. So.
Well, in English wasn't his first language?
It wasn't his first language, but it's not even Prabhupada. It's more his editors and his translators that were new. And in the beginning, they couldn't understand his accent, And like one example that comes to mind, the Prabhupada said, Pitri Loka, the planet of the Pitris, which means, in Sanskrit, Pitri means forefathers. And so the devotees translated Pitris as trees, planet of the trees. And which, see, Prabhupada was the first one that came up with these, all these, planet of the apes, planet of the trees. And so there was mistakes like that in there. And Prabhupada said, I want my books are supposed to be, not supposed to be, my books will be the law books for the next 10,000 years. So if there's a mistake times a mistake times a mistake, that's not good. But the other side is saying, well, okay, that's one example, but there's so many other examples that you change unnecessarily, you change the word, and the other side says, no, we try to keep them more to the true Sanskrit meaning. Prabhupada wanted the books to be taken very seriously and be taught. He would like them to be taught at universities. So if there's a grammatical error or the English sentence isn't proper or it doesn't quite make sense the way it is, then, the academic world may not accept it or may reject it because, look at that, and then, so on one hand, Prabhupada wanted that, and on the other hand, Prabhupada said, do not change anything. So naturally, you're going to have devotees on both sides saying, don't change anything. The words of the Guru are perfect. There's a certain charm in his writing. If you change it, it starts the slippery slope down to change it. You could change a word, you could change a principle, you could change this and change that. So naturally, there's going to be two sides. So the BBT now is also printing the original books and also printing the ones that have been altered for, they say, clarification and more true to Prabhupada's words.
Do they declare that, or how do I know? Like this copy of the Bhaktivedanta that I have, is that the original, or is that unedited, or?
Well, let me look at it. I'll tell you. Oh my God, I got the wrong one. That's the new one.
That's the version as it is now, not as it was then.
But it doesn't. It bummed me out only because, I had all these old verses memorized, and now when I say them, it's like, oh, we don't know it right, No, I do. So, basically all of them are practically the same. There's just some words.
It doesn't change any of the actual meanings or essence of any.
Right, and I don't think of any of the purports are changed at all. It's just some of the way the verses are constructed.
Some of the editions, the purports are not the same, because I know when we've done Bhagavad Gita class, my
It'll be a
version
little
of the
different.
book.
I have this old Bhagavatam, first canto, and it's different. But the meaning is the same. It's just that sentence will be reconstructed, and it'll maybe flow a little nicer according to some editor or something. I don't know.
And often what I notice is that one version might have sentences in it that are not there in the other version. So at some point it's been, and I know that his first translation of the book the publisher required him to edit it down quite a bit. And so, I don't know. Then they came back and said, okay, wait, years later, you can do larger version. So, explains that, I think, in the foreword. So I've noticed, that's the thing that I've noticed with the purports, is that some books will have more. There's some are shorter than others.
There'll be no King James version.
Yeah.
Also on the internet, I believe that Jayadvaita Swami, who we all met actually here, he's the main editor, and Prabhupada wanted him to edit and stuff. So he has, I believe, the whole website out explaining practically each change and why he did it, and brings it back to what the original was and why it needed to be changed, whether it was because Prabhupada in the beginning, Prabhupada would speak into an old dictaphone. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so then the devotees are trying to hear. They weren't used to his accent, and they weren't familiar with Sanskrit words, and like that. So some of them were like that, and some of them were changed for clarity. And so then the other side, of course, is how could we need clarity? How could you? There's no need to clarify the words of the pure devotee, So that will continue to go on. So.
Yeah, he was educated in a British or Scottish university, so they speak their words. They say words differently, annihilated. You'll hear a lot of things on Prabhupada's lecture tapes that you won't understand, and it's a British pronunciation. There's one example I remember where Prabhupada was talking about a castle or something. He was referring to the canal. He made a statement about the canal. And they assumed he was saying cannons. And then they wrote cannons in the
There you are,
purport.
you're right in the Bhagavatam.
Camels?
Cannon.
Canal.
Oh,
Canal. He said canal.
camel, like a dog. Camel.
No. But they thought he said cannon, and then they thought there were no cannons back in ancient India or something like that. They didn't shoot out a cannon. That came from China later or something like that. And it turned out he was saying canal, which is a British pronunciation for canal. We say canal. He was talking about the moat around the castle. He didn't know the word for moat. He was saying canal. So he said canal, and they said, that kind of thing should be corrected.
Yeah.
And once it's realized, you have to correct that.
Yeah.
It's not changing anything. It's just
Right. And some devotees think that's Leela, that's his pastime or something to make this mistake, and it should be eternalized in the books. But other devotees are saying, that's clearly a mistake and it has to be changed. So so you can see both sides, we're both there. Generally in our ISKCON temples we accept the newer version. And those that bring out the old ones and kind of stick to it, then, there's a little bit of a half a raised eyebrow at that. So, but many do, so much so that they're distributing also those, because some people just want to distribute the original words of the Guru. So
We have the same problem with Christian scriptures and Hebrew scriptures,
Right.
King James and modern versions.
So. Okay. Do you know the first?
No,
Do you know?
I didn't.
Do you know some? Could you?
None of it. It was a very busy week.
Okay.
I barely got the lesson done.
O son of Kanti, all that you do, all that you offer, all of your activities, do them
okay.
in service for me.
It was written on his hand. That's what
Well,
it looked like. This.
It's written in writing.
Of course, these are, there's only 700 verses in the Bhagavad Gita, guys, so we should know them all. Okay, so now we're going to go over the review questions. So, those good students that read their work should have some answers, and these answers, there can be other answers, but specifically, like in all reviews, the answer is in what you've just read. So we only had like less than 5 pages to read. And so here we're looking for the specific answers. So who would like to answer what is ISKCON's primary mission? Taken right out of the first section of the Prabhupada. And I'm not much ahead of you, actually. I just read these about 2, and just finished them around 4:15. So I'm not sitting on my high seat over here. But the idea, to continue with this is the idea that devotees have read this and we can discuss this a little more in length and get, derive more benefit out of it.
The first one?
Yes.
I put to acquaint all people of the world with the universal principles of God realization with the goal that all derive benefits of spiritual understanding.
Well, that is exactly what the teacher has. So,
So
Jorge
it's
there gets a gold star on that answer.
I didn't do so well on the second one.
Yeah, actually look at this, it's blank.
Mine's blank.
I mean,
I copied yours.
I thought someone was looking over my shoulder. I mean, I can answer that question, but I couldn't really find it
Yeah.
in what was being written.
It talks a lot about like the Vedic scriptures and ancient Vedic, but it doesn't talk like
Yes,
specific
specifically.
section on that.
Did you find that, or did you not really look at it either?
I'm looking for these questions you have here.
Page 7.
You don't even have the questions.
Page seven. He's the one that printed everything for everyone. So.
But on that first one, I liked what it had to say about that is the goal, and I like what the article said about you don't have to change. We're not asking you to change religions or leave your beliefs or.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking that too when I was reading this. This is a very broad and broad-minded definition, because Prabhupada's, or not, it's a devotees writing that article, but he's saying that, you know, universal principles, you know, God realization, and also the other nice thing is for all people of the world. You know, it doesn't say, you know, white Caucasians that live in America, or Indians, or people of a certain, you know, philosophical persuasion or income bracket, or, you know, it's like very, very broad. And Prabhupada did, you know, definitely did see that everyone could get to Krishna consciousness. And we could see that when someone would come in, like a reporter, you know, he'd be like a typical, you know, he'd have a pencil behind his ear, and he'd have his little notebook, and he'd have his little thing running, and ask some question, you know, just for the story. And Prabhupada would totally zero in and preach to him specifically as a spirit soul. You know, it wasn't that, you know, like sometimes I was just thinking about the TV, because they come usually on Thanksgiving, because, you know, we have a live turkey here, and so, you know, when they do an interview, I try to think, now what's the most like favorable, intelligent thing I could say that would appeal to as many people as possible, and you know, like that. But Prabhupada wasn't, you know, he spoke to the, you know, like I won't be speaking to the interviewer and, you know, trying to make him Krishna conscious per se, but I'll be trying to think of some lofty thing to say. So when I watch it on the 6 o'clock news, I won't be totally embarrassed. But Prabhupada just totally preached to, you know, the spirit soul in that person, because he understood that everyone, you know, not just a certain audience or his followers, but actually everyone is qualified, and should not just qualified, but their dormant love of God is all inside of us, every single one of us, and it just has to be brought out. So his preaching and you know, throwing the wide net is to, you know, attract every living entity back to the spiritual world.
Well, what I found so interesting is the idea of universal principles. That there would be universal principles.
Yeah, if you take it every religion back far enough, there are universal principles of, you know, loving God, loving each other, going back to God. That this isn't our home is in the spiritual world with God. You know, our possessions.
This isn't me.
You know, this isn't me, right? But inside of us is a temple of God. You know, that is there in all the scriptures. And so, you know, it's very easy if you look at it that way these are universal principles that everyone agrees on, but then they go in and they start making these, you know, specific rules and regulations and this, and you don't like this, and then it becomes all complicated, and people start identifying with the religion itself as the ism and not with the broader principles of what they're following. And you can see that in countries, they have the same religion and they're fighting, you know, over details, and, you know,
I mean, there's a quote here that says, human life is simply a word to a living entity so that he can realize his spiritual identity and his permanent source of happiness. So that transcends any religion, to realize your identity.
Yeah, no matter what you call yourself, you know, we all are innate, you know, spirit soul. We want to be happy. We want to be, you know, with God and joyful. That's there for every living entity, not just even the humans. Every living entity is looking for joy and happiness, and that can be obtained by linking up with our source. And that's, no one can deny that of any, you know, bona fide religious system. Any other realization of the primary mission of?
Well, how can anybody fight that? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
how can any religion or denomination say, no, you're wrong? It's such a broad and wonderful, open statement.
Well, it's interesting. It says that they try to get at least a portion of the society to devote their energies to the process of hearing and chanting about God.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah,
specifically in that
yeah.
activity.
We see that in also in every religions. You have a saintly, supposed to be saintly and priestly class that really study the scriptures and and try to imbibe that to its followers. And whether it's a priest, a rabbi, a mullah, a brahmin, these things are there. But what happens is the false ego gets in the way. Money gets in the way. Women get in the way, or like that, and it spoils everything. And they start, instead of acting for the welfare of people, they start acting for the welfare of me. And then, like we know, like in the Christian churches, where there's called absolutions that,
Yes.
and you could only, get absolved if you come to me and give a certain amount of money, and then it becomes polluted, and then it loses its purity, and then it extends down to the mundane level and spoils everything. And it's happened in every religion, unfortunately. So. What Prabhupada tried to do was, very, wonderful to come in and, not say, okay, I got the newest, I just got a lightning bolt or, some realization, but no, he comes with this great tradition, and it's very broad. Bhaktivedanta Thakur, who was the father of his guru, there was a wonderful quote that he said, and he said, I become so enlivened by hearing how others worship my Lord. And he wasn't saying, only if someone's chanting Hare Krishna, but, any bona fide faith, if they're loving God and worshiping God, he becomes enlivened, not just does he tolerate it, but, he becomes enlivened, because just like if you love someone, and you want to hear about them, whether it's from their school friend, whether it's from their grandma, whether it's from their babysitter, whether it's from their mother, and they say some beautiful anecdote about your friend, then it becomes enlivening. So in the same way, any bona fide process, worshiping God is very enlivening.
That's true.
So then we'll go on to this number 2, then I have a blank. But how are the teachings of Krishna consciousness connected to an ancient tradition? So of course this is all brought up a lot, that this isn't a new religion, this isn't something that was concocted. So there's things, such as the disciplic succession, that there's a,
That's what I thought.
that there's a, gurus and the guru, and it brings it all the way back, and you can trace it all the way back, which is, the same as the idea with the, the original apostles, and then their
Apostolic
disciples of, that shows thousands and thousands of years. So that's one point. What would be another point about the ancient tradition? Of course, the books, that were, the Sanskrit language, which was written, thousands and thousands of years ago. That's also
And the culture set up to cultivate the spirituality.
right. Exactly. If you look back at when I went to India this time, actually I'm not showing it in the slideshow, so I can tell it now, so then I won't be repeating myself tomorrow. But they had a beautiful whole village that they set up in South India of what it was like, hundreds of years ago. And it's amazing because you went in and it looked just like it, like it looks today. In some places, where they have the, the mud walls and the simple tools and things to use to, like a wok for cooking and, different things like to do a fire sacrifice. It's the same as we use today as it was hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So, that tradition was like that, and it carries on today. I mean, it was like so comfortable to be there because it was like the same things that that we do today, and it was like a museum, of ancient Indian civilization. But it was, it was very, very much similar. So that's a good point. No. So, according to the Vedas, what type of questions should human beings be concerned with? You have an iPad 5. What's the website to save money on travel? Are these the kind of questions that we're supposed to be asking according to the Vedas?
You should
Yeah.
you should inquire about the solution to the ultimate miseries, namely birth, old age, disease, and death.
Right. It also asks that the human form should inquire, who are we? Who's God? Where have I come from? What's this universe, and what's my relationship with all these living entities? That no one else can ask. The birds are chirping. That damn Balaram is squawking like anything sometimes, just nonstop. He was squawking this afternoon. But, he's also speaking, but it's not, he's communicating, but it's not, although it probably is a little bit, why am I suffering in this cage? Because we had to leave him inside because of the weather. But
I was upset, by the way, a raven was eating a bird up there. So he was drawing attention to that. He was upset about that.
wow. Well, maybe we'll just have to add that in that some birds are seeing and suffering and wondering about death and disease. List and define. Okay, this is like technical and it's very specific. List and define the 3 divisions which constitute the science of God realization. So these are a little hard. Did you write these down?
I remember those. I think if I'm saying the right part is, what is my relationship with God? That's one. How should I act in that relationship? Is that the part? And then what is the?
That was number 3. Now we're on number 4. This is something that is very specific. Sambandha, which is our that's right. No, actually, what you said, you just didn't say the Sanskrit. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah, Sambandha. Our relationship with God, Abhideya, acting in that relationship. Yeah, and Prayojana. What's
the ultimate goal of perfection.
Yeah, that's brought up. Those terms are brought up a lot. Do you know where that section is?
It's in it's second to last, page 4.
Page 4, column 2, last paragraph.
Yeah.
Go, Tom. The new kid here, and he's knows where the. Maybe you should read it, Tom.
The Vedic teachings presented in Srila Prabhupada's books can be summarized under 3 general headings, known in Sanskrit as Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Sambandha means our relationship with God. Abhideya means acting in that relationship. And Prayojana means the ultimate goal or perfection. These 3 divisions of understanding represent universal principles common to all religious teachings of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, we can see that because everyone wants to know, what's my relationship with God, and how do I act in that relationship? Whether God the Father, or in the Vedas it has 5 different relationships that you can have. But of course, right now we're all acting in a servant relationship. We're trying to purify ourselves in serving. But as we realize, or later, our original constitutional position, we all have a unique, one of the 5 relationships with God that can be, more. It starts out as, neutral, and then more intimate, and then the most intimate. So, but that gets us also common. Very good.
So one of our rasas was like Krishna's parent in the spiritual world. Did we literally say to a little boy, where I'm done with you, I don't want to be your parent anymore, I want to go have my own pleasure, or go find my own pleasure? Do we literally?
Oh, well, no. My understanding is that we weren't in that kind of high relationship with Krishna, that we were more on the peripheral. That, that we could be
That makes
like
sense.
that. And also it explains that, very few compared to all the living entities, very few actually leave the material world. Just like, even though you hear on the radio or TV or something, or that the prisons are, bulging at the seams, there's too many prisoners, but really there's just a few prisoners compared to all the free people, so it's kind of like that, we're the few rogue elements from the spiritual world. Okay, fill in the blank. The test of a religion can be considered to be how much a person has developed his or her
knowledge of God and love for God.
So if someone is, Prabhupada used to ask people that, if someone is really, of course it's not just lip service, if someone's in love with God, then there has to be some symptoms, just like you say, I love my partner, I love my, whatever it is, or what are you doing for them? It has to be more than that. So if someone's saying, I love God, and I'm doing my love for God, but then there has to be some action there. There has to be some purification of the self, there has to be some realization, there has to be some relationship with God. And the more you develop that relationship with God, and of course the more proof of the pudding, the more that you are conducting yourself in accordance with the principles of that faith or that relationship.
What I find interesting in that is that Krishna seems to puts them together, needs the chanting, the words, but also the action that go with the words.
Mm-hmm.
So the word and action. And I thought it was kind of funny because when I do marital counseling, I tell them that men and women communicate differently, that a woman, words are very important to women, and for a man, action is very important. You can say to a man, I love you, but if your actions don't show it, they don't believe you. So you have the male and the feminine, they're together.
I find that when you start to uncover that relationship with Krishna, you automatically love him, because he already is all attractive. So it's naturally that when you start to know him more, that you start to love him.
Yeah. And then that, that's why service is important, because that's an action that's, very concrete and by, it says that if a woman wants to hook a man, then she does something for him. It's like, here's some hot tea, Prabhu, gee, or something that as soon as that service starts, then attachment develops. So, in the material world, it's like that. So even, that kind of relationship, once there's some service rendered, then that attachment grows and it gets thicker and thicker.
Well, and I like that idea of, all right, everything I do is for God, but other people are receiving the benefits of it. Mm-hmm. And I like that. The idea, I'm doing it for God, but other people are benefiting from it as well.
Yeah, because it should be a complete, by serving Krishna, God properly, then all of the entities are benefited and on many levels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now a little review on Prabhupada. List 2 of Prabhupada's main accomplishments. Maybe we could just go around the room and at least say one. So let's start with...
No, he gave the true interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Which is really, really rare.
There was already so many
So many
translations.
translations out there. It just, nobody was really living it, nobody realized it like he had.
Very good. That's a nice point.
Or organizing bringing the Vedic tradition to the Western society, at least in the United States, and initiating a organized expansion of that knowledge.
Mhm. Yeah.
It was a big organizational feat.
Yeah. Sean?
Well, one of the many reasons Krishna came to our beloved little planet was to perform pastimes in which we can become acquainted with Krishna. So one of my favorite accomplishments of Prabhupada is not transcribing, translating the Srimad Bhagavatam, so we have access to the pastime so that we can partake in that relish in that. So that's my favorite.
I had founder of ISKCON, July 1966.
He said the distribution of mercy in the forms of prasadam, the holy name, and he created that that center, that foundation that can distribute all this mercy to all across the continent.
Yeah, very nice. Some of the things mentioned in the article was that he translated 51 volumes of books, so that's the 60 volumes of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how many volumes of Bhagavatam, and so many other books in 28 languages. It was in 28 languages while he was on the planet. Now it's in many more. He circled the globe 12 times. And thousands of lectures.
The book trust.
Yeah, setting up the book trust, which is the biggest. What is it? The
Distributor of Vedic literature.
Yeah, because the Bibles are probably more, but as far as the Eastern tradition, the biggest book distribution in the world. So, nice. Okay, Phil in the below. Oh, I'm sorry. Any other?
And then he started about the Catholic festivals in big cities all over the world.
Yeah.
Probably
Amazing.
checking out 46 the whole world.
We brought prasadam. We're talking about distributing, but just for the devotees, that wonderful art of Indian vegetarian cooking.
Gave us God's direct telephone number with his
Yeah.
Maha Mantra.
You know that joke about that a guru or Swami went to Jerusalem or something, went to the Vatican to visit the Pope, and he came inside and he had this big red phone, and the guru said, "Oh, what's that? That's fancy booze. That's my direct line to God." And he said, "Really? No kidding? You think I could talk to him?" And he said, "Yeah, let me get him on the line." And then God, okay, Swamiji wants to talk to you. So he gives it, and he says, "But don't talk long because it's a long distance, And they said a few things and hung up. And so he said, "I want to invite you to my home and come to India, come to Vrindavan." So the priest came, the Pope came, and he also had a phone there. And he said, "Oh, you got a phone too?" And he said, "Yeah, you want to talk to God?" He said, "Yeah." He goes, "But talk as long as you want. It's a local call." So,
Listen.
I guess.
Can I just read that poem that Srila Prabhupada
Yeah.
said on the way over to America? He was on the Jaladuta ship. "My dear Lord Krishna, how will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel gladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life."
It's such a selfless endeavor. Okay, Prabhupada came to America in
1965.
67?
No, 65.
65.
65. And he was how old when he came over?
16. He was just going to turn 69.
He was 69, just going to turn 70.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Isn't it, right?
Yeah, he was 69.
He was 69, but he had his
Yeah.
birthday on the boat, or?
Soon after, I think.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada taught Krishna consciousness for how many years?
12.
12 years, that's right. Prabhupada incorporated ISKCON in New York in the year
66.
66.
The first page of the article says, on August 13, 1965, just a few days before his 69th birthday.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you for pointing that out.
Oh,
Okay, I was wrong.
oh yeah.
Okay, so he was 60, yeah, so we could say 69. Okay, he was 69 when he came. Okay, very good. Prabhupada, when he left, Prabhupada, what was he? At that time, he had a total of, how many committed followers?
0.
0. Yeah, isn't that amazing, actually?
Yes.
Prabhupada had 0 followers. He had a few ragtag people that came to some of his classes, and he, I think he even got the landlord to be one of the, one of the board of directors for ISKCON, because you had to have so many officers, because he had nobody. And he just had such faith and drive, to carry on. So, okay, so that was pretty good. So we should try to, review it a little better and answer the questions a little more, particularly according to what's in the words. So now, like what we did last week, is we read one section together. So we're going to be on lesson 2. And the objectives for lesson 2 would be explain something about the nature of the soul, list the 4 main problems of material life, and answer questions on karma and reincarnation. So let us read together. It's not that. It's only 2 articles per lesson, but we'll make it easy for you guys and myself, since we all had a problem. So, why is that woman literally dusting the bird cage when it's the bird itself, obviously sick or hungry, that urgently needs attention? She seems so caught up in polishing her golden cage that she's forgetting all about the poor creature. Or perhaps she's just too deaf and nearsighted to perceive its distress.
The urgency we might feel in wanting to do something to remedy this outrage roughly parallels the urgency a self-realized spiritual master feels as he looks upon those of us who are suffering the pains of life in the material world. The bird you see represents the spirit soul, the spark of consciousness encaged within the material body. The cage is the body itself, which covers the soul and keeps them trapped in the material world. The old woman represents the person in spiritual ignorance, oblivious to the needs of the spiritual self within, and absorbed in satisfying the demands of the external body.
His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, felt intense compassion for people suffering from spiritual ignorance, and he dedicated his life to teaching the science of Krishna consciousness so they could be enlightened. In his commentary on India's greatest spiritual classic, Srimad Bhagavatam, he writes, "The spirit soul's needs must be fulfilled. Simply by cleansing the cage of the bird, one does not satisfy the bird. One must actually know the needs of the bird himself. The need of the spirit soul is that he wants to get out of the limited sphere of material bondage and fulfill his desire for complete freedom. He wants to get out of the covered walls of the greater universe. He wants to see the free light and the spirit. That complete freedom is achieved when he meets the complete spirit, the personality of Godhead."
Now you may ask, how did the bird ever get into the cage in the first place? How did the soul ever become covered by matter? How did we ever lose sight of God? The Vedic literature explains that each of us is a part of God, a minute particle of his spiritual energy. And because we are part of God, we have his qualities, but in minute quantities. One of those qualities is independence. God, or Krishna, has complete independence. He can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. Our independence consists of being able to choose between serving Krishna and trying to imitate him.
That's a big.
Yeah. Serving Krishna is our constitutional activity and brings us eternal bliss in Krishna's spiritual world. But when we try to imitate Krishna, when we try to usurp his position of supreme enjoyer and controller, we must come to the material world. Here we forget Krishna, acquire a body made of matter, and suffer perpetually in the cycle of repeated birth, old age, disease, and death.
Eons ago, in some unimaginably distant millennia, we chose not to serve Krishna, but to imitate him, and we've become encaged in matter ever since. To end our suffering, we need only choose now to serve Krishna. There is no other way, as Krishna affirms in the Bhagavad Gita 7:14. My material energy is insurmountable, unless one surrenders to me. After all, Krishna is God, the supreme controller of both the spiritual and material energies. He has created the material world only to teach us that living apart from him is misery. Once we learn that and begin to serve him again, he compassionately lifts us above the painful dualities of material life.
The Vedic literature says that one who serves the Lord with his full energy is free of material bondage, even while still living in this material body. In other words, at every moment he understands himself to be transcendental to the pleasures and pains, the ups and downs of material existence. Even in the greatest difficulty, he remains undisturbed, serene in his transcendental loving relationship with Krishna. So life in the world of matter can be a pleasure when we're nourished by spiritual contact with Krishna, just as life for our bird in the golden cage would be a pleasure if he were properly fed and cared for.
Of course, the bird in the cage would find ultimate happiness only in freedom. He wants to return to his home in the forest. Similarly, the self-realized soul yearns to return home back to Godhead, to live with Krishna eternally. This is the fruit of full surrender to the Lord.
Wake up, call out the neighbor. Try to understand the great value of the human form of life. Don't remain in the darkness of spiritual ignorance. Come to the light of transcendental knowledge. The devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement, following the lead of Srila Prabhupada, echo this call of the Vedic literature. Human life is very rare, and it is the only form of life in which the soul enwrapped in ignorance can understand the science of God consciousness. The purpose of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is to provide knowledge of God in the form of books and other media, to provide a practical method for reestablishing a loving relationship with God through bhakti yoga, devotional service, and to show by example how we can live in this world in a liberated and joyful state, serving God with all our vital energy. Now it is simply up to each of us to choose to quit polishing the cage and take care of the suffering bird within.
Right. Such a nice example, and very,
Perfect.
very, very nice. More about what you're saying about the universal principle. Prabhupada would say, there's many names for God. If you don't have a name, use our name. But if you already have a name, chant that. And it's actually so sweet because, if you already have a name, fine, then chant that name. Because it says in all the scriptures you should chant God's name. But if you don't have it, you can take ours. It's not limited. We'll give that to you and you can chant it. So, I was saying that the purpose of the Krishna conscious movement is to provide, knowledge about God in the form of books. And if you already have a book and it's helping you, and the definition of how it's helping you is becoming a lover of God, wonderful. Keep reading that book. If you don't have a book, you can read our book. We have lots of them you can read. So that way people, aren't, challenged in a negative way that they feel that, that it's all or nothing, or our way, or ours is the only way. But people can, intelligent people can come to their own conclusions. So for next time, then what we'll do is, please answer these questions. And then there's another, Transcending the Laws of Karma, which is very good, and it also has some questions here at the end. So if everyone can just fill those out right on your page, that way we can, according to what we've read, and then we can keep the discussion going nicely. And right now, we're going to be doing a little bit of the Vaishnava etiquette.
Well, if somebody has a specific request list that I read last time, you can do whatever they want. Otherwise, I'm going to just continue with the start of this. Last time we were talking about etiquette within the temple, and the two headings were being humble and offering obeisance. The next thing is meditating upon the deity. Is this old for people if we read through this again? Is that okay? Meditating on the deity. Maybe it's Jarrell I'm more worried about. You've heard this a couple times. It says, after offering obeisances to the deities, one should take darshan with great devotion and beg for their mercy. After offering obeisances to the deities. And you do that with which side? The left side. Yeah, that's the way Srila Prabhupada does it. In all the videos you'll see him doing that way. People ask why, I don't know. But that's the way it's done.
I don't know if I know the direct meaning of darshan.
That's, yeah. Darshan means seeing. Or, yeah, I think it just means seeing, doesn't it?
To see, but it also means to be seen. You know, Krishna's looking at us, you know, so we don't want to be, you know, spaced out or, you know, just not paying attention or something. So we're viewing, you know, we're seeing Krishna, but Krishna's also seeing us. That's why the devotees like to be on time. For, you know, when the curtain's open, it's like, where's so-and-so? And so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so. I mean, we want to be there, just like any personality that comes. You know, you want to, you know, the whole room is full, and it's like the rock star doesn't come on and start playing, and then people dribble in. You know, he's like where, and he comes out, there's a big applause. So that's a perverted reflection of the deity worship. So Krishna's there, we should be there, anxious to see him and waiting for him.
Yeah, darshan, seeing the deities see. One should not, however, immediately look upon the deities full in the face. The proper manner in which one should take darshan of the Lord. The process, quote, the process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet and the calves and the thighs, and in this way higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed on different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified.
It's easier to do with big deities, you know, because
Yes.
when you have a little deity, it's like hard, you know, as soon as you open your eyes, you see him and beyond. But when you have big deities, and it's, you know, because you look and the ankle bells are so nicely, and his calves and where his dhoti is, and then you go up, and sometimes he's got, you know, colored kumkum on his legs, and then sometimes he has a belt, and you know, sometimes you can see his navel or his little flute stuck in his belt, and, you know, so then he can like gradually go up and really relish and appreciate. You know, with bigger deities, small deities are a little harder to do that, but you can still do it. The idea is at least we should understand the proper method and, you know, the approach.
It's against what social convention would say. When you look at someone, you look at their face first.
Yeah.
Impolite to look at anything else.
It used to be the tradition that when you came in the presence of like a king or somebody, you didn't look directly at them. I think you look down. You know, look down or something like that. But now you're right. You know, we're all puffed up. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that such meditation will help us get detached from sense gratification. The mood of the devotee taking darshan is, quote, "Sir, I am your eternal servant. Please let me know how can I serve you." The functions of the big deities in the temple are for giving darshan and usually are the istadevas of the sampradaya. That's some language for you. You know what that is?
I have no clue.
Istadevas of the sampradaya. There's certain disciplic lines have their traditional deity forms for, you know, I don't know, most denominations know a lot more about that.
Well, Krishna can appear in so many ways. Like there's one deity where this Krishna worshipped as a 5-year-old boy, and he's holding Govardhan Hill. So that's particularly popular with the Pushti Marg in a, you know, certain disciplic succession. And then there's like the Jagannath deities, and there's a, you know, like that. So the Ishtadev is the, you know, the main deity. There's so many different deities in India. There's Balaji, and that's worshipped by a certain Vishnu Sampradaya and like that. So But that's, it's not so relative to us.
It says, so the big deities in the temple it says it's quite natural and respectful to see them first. There are also other considerations as if there are 3 altars like the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, or like in San Diego, or in Los Angeles.
Anywhere but here.
A lot of the bigger temples, Los Angeles, Dallas, in Vrindavan, or Sri Sri Radha Rasa Vihar in Mandir in Juhu. Srila Prabhupada would pay obeisances first at Govinda's altar, then go to Krishna Balaram's altar, and then to Sri Sri Radha Shamsuni. It's probably starting from the left, right? It's not like you go to Govinda in here and then go back here or back here. And from the left to the right. Maybe. Also, the devotee may like to see his guru first, but his guru's picture may not be present. Then take darshan in the ascending order to Krishna. Also, the devotee may like to see his guru first. I thought you were supposed to go to the spiritual master first.
Yeah.
I thought we talked about this. While taking darshan, one may stand at the side so that darshan is not obstructed from the devotees who are sitting. Darshan should begin as we face the deities from the left-hand corner and move progressively, deity by deity, to the right-hand corner. In Radha Gopinath Mandir, this would mean beginning the darshan with Guru Parampara, then Lord Nityananda, and ending with Sri Gopalaji. This is, Chaupati Temple manual, so they're concerned with how to behave in the temples there. We don't.
Well, in our temple, you have the main altar, and then there's a second worship.
Right.
And what deity is that?
That's Lord Nrsimhadev, because he's
okay,
considered that he's on a separate altar, because he's a different Ras, he's a different relationship as a protector. So, like when we offer obeisances in the morning, then we'll go to our main altar, then we'll move a little bit and then go down to the second altar.
Okay, then there's a section on sitting in the temple. There are several regulations regarding one's sitting posture in the temple. While sitting, one should not expose one's feet to the deities or point them at the spiritual master, Tulsi Devi, etc. The feet should always be covered. I guess, if you're sitting cross-legged, the safest thing is to have your dhoti over your feet or something like that. But
In the Middle East, it's an insult to do that to anybody, to
point your feet.
point your feet to somebody. It's considered a very bad insult.
Yeah, in India also.
Yeah,
That is
we
what's
came from
working.
India, then it drifted over there.
One should, as far as possible, avoid sitting with one's back to the deities or the vyasasana. That's the Srila Prabhupada's more. However, the layout of the temple may at times restrict us in following this principle. One should not spread one's legs before the deities. One should not sit before the deities holding one's ankles, elbows, or knees. Please see the illustrations. It also shows holding one's foot. Somebody massages the foot and they hold the foot. You can do that in front of the deities. If you touch your feet, I think you shouldn't go directly to your Tulsi leaves for chanting. Purify your hand. This is Gandhir. He didn't like that. One should not fall asleep while sitting before the deities. I do it practically every day. Talking in front of the deities, one should not talk loudly, quarrel, chastise anyone, speak harshly to others, or speak angrily, praise anyone else, speak ill names, criticize the demigods, indulge in prajalpa or mundane talk, speak a lie, or talk to nearby devotees who are chanting the holy name of the Lord. Talk to nearby devotees who are chanting in front of the deities, one should not. One may speak in front of the deities to guests and devotees if it helps in preaching or enhancing their Krishna consciousness. But all other talks should be conducted outside the temple.
I wanted to go over the verse though for next time. Because I think actually next week, because it's Thanksgiving and some people already said they're going to be out of town or something, so we're going to not have a class next week. So,
So we're not meeting next Saturday.
yeah, so we won't meet next Saturday, meet the following. So, the verse is Samaham Sarva Bhuteshu. It's
Samoha?
yeah. Samaham Sarva Bhuteshu Na Pridvesha Spina Priya. Doesn't everyone have?
No.
Is this text
We don't have
29?
Yeah,
Okay.
I gave it out, yes. This was separate from the booklet.
Oh, Samoha, sorry. Name Dveshos.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
text 29. Yeah, you
Yeah.
did give it up. You did. It's on the
Ye
same.
bhajanti tumam bhaktya, ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, mayi te teshu chati aham. Samaham sarva bhuteshu, nami dvesha stina priya, ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya, mayi te teshu chati aham. Translation. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. So the translation, I envy no one,
I envy no one,
nor am I partial to anyone.
nor am I partial to anyone.
I am equal to all.
I am equal to all.
But whoever renders service unto me in devotion
And whoever renders service unto me in devotion
is a friend,
is a friend,
is in me,
is in me,
and I am also a friend to him.
and I am also a friend to him.
And the purport, Prabhupada explains that just like a gentleman or gentle lady loves all children, who doesn't love all children if they behave properly? But the father, is more affectionate to his own children because there's that relationship there. So Krishna's saying that, I'm not partial to anyone. I'm not envious of anyone. I'm equal to all. That's the position of God. But if someone's rendering service unto him in devotion, then that relationship becomes, a little thicker. So, but Krishna's always neutral in one sense. He's neutral. But it's like if all the kids were in the room and some disaster happens, you would naturally grab your own kid, even though you love all the kids and want all the kids to be safe. Your natural instinct would be to go to your kid. So it's explained that being a devotee of God, then even though he's equal to everyone, you have a special relationship there with him. So.
What does Krishna mean by is in me? Is in me.
That's incredible. That's an incredible phrase.
Yeah.
Oh,
Idea.
well, I was just going to say, at least for what I was thinking, is that he's dear to us and we're dear to him. So we're dear to him, so he also remembers us. We're also in him.
Yeah,
that way.
yeah, that he's, I'm also, let's see, is in me. Yeah, just like you could say that, you carry your loved ones in your heart.
Okay.
That you're in Krishna, Krishna is accepting you, and he's, you're part of his intimate, family. We'll have to check both translations and see. It says
Now
maybe.
you've got me worried.
There's a Bhagavatam verse that says, Krishna says, my pure devotees know nothing but me, and I know nothing but my devotees. Of course he knows everything, but
You can see
still
like,
he says I know nothing but.
like two lovers, like I only have eyes for you. I only do, and then vice versa. Although they have their own life and they're doing different things, but that's like such an intimate, sweet thing. So, yeah.
I could read the purport, it's only a page.
Oh,
if you
okay.
find.
Yeah.
One may question here that if Krishna is equal to everyone and no one is his special friend, then why does he take a special interest in the devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental service? But this is not discrimination, it is natural. Any man in this material world may be very charitably disposed, yet he has a special interest in his own children. The Lord claims that every living entity, in whatever form, is his son, and so he provides everyone with a generous supply of the necessities of life. He is just like a cloud which pours rain over all, regardless of whether it falls on rock or land or water. But for his devotees, he gives specific attention. Such devotees are mentioned here. They are always in Krishna consciousness, and therefore they are always transcendentally situated in Krishna. The very phrase Krishna consciousness suggests that those who are in such consciousness are living transcendentalists situated in him. The Lord says here distinctly, Mayate, they are in me. Naturally, as a result, the Lord is also in them. This is reciprocal. This also explains the words Yayathamam Kadayante Tam Tatyava Vayajanyam. The transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotee are conscious. When a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very nice. The gold is glorified, and at the same time, the diamond is glorified. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter, and when a living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. The Lord is a diamond, and so this combination is very nice. Living entities in a pure state are called devotees. The Supreme Lord becomes the devotee of his devotees. If a reciprocal relationship is not present between the devotee and the Lord, then there is no personalist philosophy. In the impersonalist philosophy, there is no reciprocation between the Supreme and the living entity. But in the personalist philosophy, there is. The example is often given that the Lord is like a desire tree, and whatever one wants from this desire tree, the Lord supplies. But here the explanation is more complete. The Lord is here stated to be partial to the devotees. This is the manifestation of the Lord's special mercy to the devotees. The Lord's reciprocation should not be considered to be under the law of karma. It belongs to the transcendental situation in which the Lord and his devotees function. Devotional service to the Lord is not an activity of this material world. It is part of a spiritual world where eternity, bliss, and knowledge predominate.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon tomorrow. I'm going to show my slideshow tomorrow at my India trip.
Yeah.